I stared at my reflection in the mirror, watching my hands tremble as I adjusted my veil for the 100th time. The text from my sister still burned on my phone screen. "Can't wait to share the big surprise at your wedding. It'll be unforgettable." My name is Lorelei, and in 3 hours, I was supposed to be having the happiest day of my life. Instead, my stomach churned with dread, knowing my younger sister Zariah would find some way to steal the spotlight, just like she always had. "Don't you dare let her get to you," Rachel said, appearing behind me in the mirror. My best friend and maid of honor gripped my shoulders firmly. "This is your day." I forced a smile. "You know Zariah. She's probably planning to announce she's pregnant with triplets, or that she's been cast in a Hollywood movie. Or maybe she'll claim she's been secretly dating Brad Pitt." Rachel rolled her eyes, making me laugh despite myself. The bridal suite door burst open, and my mother swept in, wearing her signature look of barely concealed disapproval. "Lorelei, darling, why aren't you ready yet? And what's wrong with your hair?" "The hair is perfect, Samantha," Virginia, my wedding planner, intercepted smoothly. "I've been doing this for 20 years. Trust me." Mom pursed her lips. "Well, Zariah's hair looked absolutely stunning at her engagement party last month." "The engagement party she threw herself," Rachel muttered under her breath. I caught Virginia's knowing look in the mirror. She'd been our family friend for years and had seen firsthand how Zariah operated. More importantly, she'd helped me prepare for today in ways my sister would never suspect. "Has anyone seen my earrings?" I asked, trying to change the subject. "Oh, speaking of jewelry," Mom brightened, "Zariah wanted to loan you her diamond bracelet. She said it would be perfect for—" "No," I cut her off firmly. "I'm wearing Grandma's pearls, the ones she left specifically for my wedding day." Mom's face fell. "But your sister—" "Mom," I turned to face her directly, "this is my wedding, not Zariah's." The door opened again, and my father poked his head in. "There's my beautiful girl." His warm smile faltered slightly as he read the room's tension. "Everything okay in here?" "Perfect, Daddy." I managed a genuine smile. At least he'd always tried to treat us equally, even if he rarely succeeded in standing up to Mom's obvious favoritism. "Well, Frankie's already here, looking sharp as ever," Dad said, though he seems a bit nervous, kept checking his phone. My heart skipped. "Nervous? Did he say why?" "Probably just wedding jitters," Rachel jumped in quickly. "I'll go check on him." As Rachel left, Virginia shooed everyone else out to give the bride some space. Once we were alone, she closed the door and turned to me with serious eyes. "Are you sure about this, honey?" Once we set things in motion, I picked up my phone and pulled up Zariah's text again. Below it was a series of screenshots I'd collected over the years, evidence of her systematic attempts to sabotage my relationships, including my early dates with Frankie. The latest was from just last week, a message she'd accidentally sent me instead of her friend, detailing her plans for my wedding day. "I'm sure," I said firmly. "I've spent my whole life watching her tear me down to build herself up. She tried to break me and Frankie up 3 times before we got engaged. She's not ruining this day." Virginia squeezed my hand. "The video is ready. Just give me the signal during the reception." A knock at the door made us both jump. Rachel slipped back in, her face tight with concern. "Frankie's fine," she said quickly, "but I just overheard Zariah on the phone. She's definitely planning something for the ceremony. And she's got Darren with her." "Darren?" I frowned. "Her ex from college?" "Apparently not so ex anymore." Rachel's expression darkened. "They seemed cozy." I took a deep breath, smoothing down my dress. Part of me wanted to cry, but a stronger part, the part that had been methodically planning this day for months, felt strangely calm. "Let her try," I said, meeting my own eyes in the mirror. "I'm done being her supporting actress. She wants to make this day unforgettable. Fine, but this time I'm directing the show." Virginia and Rachel exchanged glances as I stood up straighter, adjusted my veil one final time, and reached for my bouquet. "Ready?" Dad called through the door. "Ready," I answered, and for the first time that morning, I meant it. Zariah had no idea what was coming, but she was about to learn that karma could be just as attention-seeking as she was. The church doors opened, and Wagner's bridal chorus filled the air. My heart pounded as Dad squeezed my arm, whispering, "You look beautiful, sweetheart." I caught sight of Frankie at the altar, and everything else faded away for a moment. His eyes lit up as they met mine, that crooked smile I fell in love with spreading across his face. Even from here, I could see him blinking back tears. Then I spotted Zariah in the front row, wearing a dress that definitely pushed the boundaries of appropriate wedding guest attire. She was practically bouncing in her seat, whispering to Darren beside her. My step faltered slightly, but Dad steadied me. "Just look at Frankie," he murmured. "Nothing else matters." The ceremony began beautifully. Father Matthews welcomed everyone warmly, and I managed to keep my voice steady through our traditional vows. Then came the moment for our personal ones. Frankie pulled out a small piece of paper, his hands shaking slightly. "Lorelei," he began, "before I met you, I was lost. I'd given up on finding real love, convinced myself it wasn't worth the risk." He paused, swallowing hard. "Then you walked into that coffee shop, ordered a triple-shot espresso, and proceeded to spill it all over my laptop." Laughter rippled through the church. I couldn't help giggling through my tears, remembering that disastrous first meeting. "You were so mortified," he continued. "You insisted on buying me coffee every day for a week to make up for it. By day 3, I was already falling for you. Your kindness, your strength, your ability to light up any room. You made me believe in love again." I opened my mouth to begin my own vows, but movement in the front row caught my eye. Zariah was standing up. "I'm sorry," she called out, her voice carrying through the church. "I just can't hold it in anymore. Darren and I are engaged." The church fell silent. I felt Frankie's hand tighten around mine as Zariah practically dragged Darren to his feet. "We wanted to wait to announce it," she continued, beaming at the shocked congregation. "But seeing all this love today, I just couldn't keep our joy to ourselves anymore. Isn't it amazing? We'll be planning our own wedding soon." Mum was already dabbing at her eyes, exclaiming, "Oh, my baby," while Dad looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. I caught Rachel's eye from where she stood with my other bridesmaids. She was practically vibrating with rage, but I gave her a subtle shake of my head. "Not yet." "That's wonderful news, Zariah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But perhaps we could return to the ceremony." Of course," Zariah gushed, still standing. "I just thought, since we're all here celebrating love, what better moment? Darren and I want to share our story too. We actually reconnected at your engagement party, Lorelei. Remember when you were too busy to talk to your own sister?" Father Matthews cleared his throat. "Perhaps this discussion could wait for the reception." "Oh, but this is so much more intimate," Zariah protested. "And Darren's already ordered champagne for everyone." "Zariah," Frankie's voice cut through her rambling, surprisingly firm. "Sit down, now." Something in his tone made her pause. She blinked, then slowly sank back into her seat, though her triumphant smile remained firmly in place. I squeezed Frankie's hand in gratitude before turning back to Father Matthews. "My vows," I said clearly, pulling out my own paper. My hands weren't shaking anymore. If anything, Zariah's interruption had only strengthened my resolve. "Frankie," I began, "you came into my life when I'd started to doubt myself, when I'd begun to believe the voices telling me I wasn't enough." I saw Zariah shift uncomfortably in my peripheral vision. "But you saw me, really saw me. You taught me that real love isn't about competition or attention. It's about support, trust, and standing together against whatever life throws at us." I took a deep breath, looking directly into his eyes. "I promise to always be your partner in every sense of the word, to face our challenges together, to celebrate our joys as one, and to never let anyone come between the truth of what we share." The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur of rings and prayers. When Father Matthews finally pronounced us husband and wife, Frankie pulled me into a kiss that felt like a promise of its own. As we turned to face our guests as Mr. and Mrs., I caught sight of Virginia in the back of the church, giving me a subtle thumbs up. The video was ready. Zariah might think she'd won this round, but the reception was about to give her a surprise of her own. After all, karma doesn't always wait for the next life to come calling. "Ready to face the crowd, Mrs. Rivera?" Frankie whispered as we prepared to walk back down the aisle. I smiled, genuine and bright. "More than ready. The real show's about to begin." The reception hall buzzed with whispered conversations as guests found their seats. Zariah had somehow managed to position herself at the center of attention, showing off her engagement ring to anyone who would look. Mom hovered nearby, practically glowing with pride. "I can't believe she actually did it," Rachel muttered, adjusting my train as we prepared for our entrance. "In the middle of your vows." "Oh, I can believe it," I said, watching through the doorway as Zariah dramatically recounted her magical proposal story for the third time. "Remember my high school graduation? When she announced she'd been accepted to Yale?" Rachel rolled her eyes. "Even though she ended up going to community college 2 months later." "Or my college graduation," I added, "when she fainted during my valedictorian speech. The smelling salts were a nice touch," Frankie chimed in, appearing beside me. "Though not as creative as the sudden illness at your promotion party last year." I turned to face him, straightening his boutonniere. "You know what the worst part is? She actually tried to warn me this time. That text wasn't a slip-up. She wanted me to spend my entire wedding day dreading whatever she had planned." "Well," Rachel's smile turned wicked, "she's about to learn about karma." The DJ's voice boomed through the speakers, announcing our entrance. As Frankie and I stepped into the reception hall, the crowd erupted in applause. Everyone except Zariah, who was busy showing Darren something on her phone. We made our way to the head table, stopping to greet guests along the way. Just before we sat down, Mom intercepted us, pulling me into a perfume-heavy embrace. "Darling, about what happened at the ceremony," she started. "You know, your sister just gets excited. She doesn't mean any harm." "Really, Mom?" I pulled back, meeting her eyes. "Name one important moment in my life she hasn't tried to hijack." "That's not fair," Mom protested. "Zariah just has a vibrant personality. She needs attention, unlike you. You've always been so independent." "Independent?" I laughed without humor. "Or just used to being ignored." "Now, Lorelei," Mom's voice took on that familiar disappointed tone. "Don't be dramatic. This kind of jealousy isn't attractive." "Jealousy?" Frankie stepped forward, his usual easygoing demeanor hardening. "Mrs. Walsh, with all due respect—" "It's fine," I cut him off, touching his arm. "Mom, you should get back to your seat. I think Virginia's about to start the toasts." As if on cue, Virginia clinked her glass, calling for attention. "Before we begin dinner, the bride and groom have prepared a special video celebrating their journey together." Zariah's head snapped up, her face darkening. She hadn't expected this deviation from the traditional reception schedule she'd tried to help plan. "But I thought I was doing the first toast," she protested, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I have a whole speech prepared about love and new beginnings. The video first," Virginia said firmly, nodding to the AV tech. The lights dimmed, and the large screen at the front of the hall flickered to life. It started innocently enough. Photos of Frankie and me throughout our relationship, set to romantic music. Then came the first shift. A screenshot appeared, a text conversation between Zariah and my ex-boyfriend Tom from 3 years ago, where she'd convinced him I was cheating on him. Another screenshot followed, an email where she'd posed as me to cancel a job interview. Then another, her message to Frankie's ex-girlfriend, claiming he was still in love with her, sent just weeks before our engagement. The room grew deadly quiet. I could feel Zariah's eyes boring into me, but I kept my gaze forward, watching as years of her carefully orchestrated sabotage played out on screen. "Turn it off," she demanded, her voice shrill. This is private. Mom, make them stop it." But even Mom sat frozen, watching as the evidence mounted. Messages, emails, social media posts, a systematic campaign to undermine every significant relationship and opportunity in my life. The final clip was from last week. Zariah's voice, crystal clear, telling Darren, "Trust me, babe, announcing our engagement at her wedding is perfect. She'll be too scared of making a scene to do anything about it. She always backs down. It's kind of pathetic, really." When the lights came back up, you could have heard a pin drop. Darren had moved away from Zariah, staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "I can explain," Zariah started, but her voice cracked. Lorelai's twisting everything. She's always been jealous of me." "Jealous?" I stood up slowly, my voice carrying in the silence. "No, Zariah, I'm not jealous. I'm done." The room erupted in murmurs as Zariah pushed back her chair with a screech. Her face had gone from red to white, and her hands were shaking. "You'll regret this," she hissed, grabbing her purse. "You have no idea what else I know." As she stormed toward the exit, I caught Virginia's eye and nodded slightly. Phase 1 was complete. Now for the real fireworks. The silence following Zariah's exit lasted exactly 3 seconds before the room exploded into chaos. Guests turned to each other, phones appeared in hands, and the whispers grew into a steady roar of conversation. "Did you know about all this?" Darren approached our table, his face ashen. "The messages, the manipulation, how long has she been doing this?" "Sit down, Darren." I gestured to an empty chair. "There's more you need to know." "More?" He collapsed into the seat, loosening his tie. "What could be worse than—" "Remember Jessica?" Frankie cut in, his voice gentle but firm. "Your ex-fiancée from 2 years ago." Darren's head snapped up. "How do you know about Jessica?" Virginia appeared beside us, tablet in hand. "Show him." I nodded. She pulled up a series of messages between Zariah and Jessica from 18 months ago. Darren's hands shook as he read them, his face growing paler with each swipe. She told Jessica I was cheating." His voice cracked. "That's why Jessica called off the wedding." "And then Zariah conveniently showed up to comfort you," Rachel added, her tone bitter. "Just like she did with Tom and Marcus and every other guy she set her sights on." Mom rushed over, her mascara slightly smeared. "This is ridiculous. Lorelai, how could you humiliate your sister like this? On your wedding day, no less." "How could I?" I stood up, finally letting years of suppressed anger surface. "How could you let her treat me like this for 28 years? How many times did I come to you in tears, telling you something felt wrong, and you dismissed it as sister rivalry?" "I never," Mom started, but Dad cut her off. "Samantha," his voice was unusually stern, "sit down." "But Hector, now." As Mom sank into a chair, Virginia projected more evidence onto the screen. Photos of Zariah with various ex-boyfriends, mine and others, all dated suspiciously close to major breakups. Screenshots of her creating fake social media accounts to spread rumors. Email threads where she'd posed as different people to sabotage job opportunities and friendships. "Oh my God," Darren stood up suddenly. "The promotion I lost last month. She said she had nothing to do with that email to my boss." "Check your sent folder," Rachel suggested grimly. "She's not as tech-savvy as she thinks. She probably forgot to delete it." Darren fumbled with his phone, then let out a string of curses. I need to." He stumbled toward the exit, already dialing a number. "Should we go after him?" Frankie asked quietly. I shook my head. "He needs time to process, just like everyone else here." Around the room, more revelations were surfacing as guests connected dots from their own experiences with Zariah. Aunt Marie discovered why her catering business lost a major client last year. My cousin Pete finally learned why his girlfriend had suddenly blocked him on all social media platforms. "But why?" Mom's voice was small now. "Why would she do all this?" "Because she could," I replied. "Because you taught her that her feelings mattered more than anyone else's. Because every time she hurt someone, you helped her justify it." "That's not—" Mom paused as Dad placed a hand on her shoulder. "It is true, Sam," he said softly. "We failed both our girls. We failed Zariah by never setting boundaries, and we failed Lorelai by never protecting her." The door burst open and Zariah stormed back in, her face streaked with tears and fury. "You want to play dirty? Fine. Let me tell everyone about the real Lorelai, about how you—" Slept with Marcus after your breakup. I finished for her. Go ahead. Tell them how you conveniently left out the part where you'd already cheated on him with his best friend. The evidence is all there, Zariah. Every lie, every manipulation, every coincidence. I've spent years documenting it all. You're destroying our family, she screamed. No. I stayed calm, though my heart was racing. You did that, one sabotage at a time. I have more, she threatened, reaching for her phone. Things you don't know about. Actually, Virginia stepped forward, holding up a USB drive. We do know, all of it, including what really happened to Dad's retirement fund last year. Zariah froze, her phone slipping from suddenly nerveless fingers. Dad stood up slowly, his face draining of color. What about my retirement fund? The room held its breath as Zariah's eyes darted between faces, looking for an ally and finding none. For the first time in her life, she had no way to twist the situation to her advantage. She started, then stopped. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling, and everyone could see it. I think, Virginia said quietly, it's time for the full truth to come out, all of it. I nodded, my hand finding Frankie's under the table. The worst was yet to come, but finally, after all these years, the truth would have its day. The retirement fund, Virginia began, connecting her tablet to the projector, was just the beginning. Should we start with the unauthorized withdrawals or the forged signatures? Stop, Zariah whispered, but her usual commanding presence had evaporated. Bank statements appeared on screen. Dad leaned forward, squinting at the numbers. These are from my investment account, but I never authorized. $45,000, Virginia stated. Transferred to a private account over 6 months. The signatures match yours perfectly, except for one small detail. You were in the hospital recovering from knee surgery when 3 of them were made. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Zariah, tell me you didn't. I was going to pay it back. Zariah's voice cracked. I had a plan, this amazing investment opportunity. You mean the crypto scam? Rachel interrupted, pulling up more documents. The same one you tried to drag Lorelai into last Christmas? Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. My retirement savings, for cryptocurrency. Not just any cryptocurrency, I added quietly. A pyramid scheme. The same one that bankrupted Uncle Mike last year. Remember how Zariah consoled his daughter at the bankruptcy hearing, telling her everything would be okay while holding the very money that could have saved their house? You don't understand. Zariah's mascara ran in black streaks down her face. I needed the money. Do you know how hard it is to keep up appearances? The right clothes, the right car, the right connections, the right lies. Frankie stood up. Like the lies you told me about Lorelai before we started dating. About her supposedly being engaged to someone else. The room buzzed with fresh whispers. Darren had returned, standing at the back with his phone still in hand, looking shell-shocked. She told me Lorelai was a pathological liar, he said, his voice carrying in the tense silence. That I should be careful believing anything she says about family matters. Projection at its finest, Rachel muttered. I just got off the phone with Jessica, Darren continued. She's sending me proof of all the messages, the fake social media accounts, the anonymous tips about affairs that never happened. It wasn't just Lorelai. You've been doing this to everyone. I had to, Zariah screamed suddenly, making several guests jump. You don't know what it's like being the younger sister, always in her shadow, perfect Lorelai with her perfect grades and perfect job and perfect fiancé. Shadow? I laughed incredulously. You had everything. Mom and Dad's attention, the best clothes, the biggest room. They remortgaged the house to send you to private school while I worked 2 jobs to pay for community college. Because you wanted to, Mom interjected weakly. You said you wanted to be independent. No, Mom. I said that because every time I asked for help, you told me the money had to go to Zariah's special needs. Her modeling classes, her acting workshops, her therapy sessions she never actually attended. Virginia cleared her throat. Speaking of therapy payments, she pulled up another document. Don't, Zariah whispered. The receipts you showed your parents. The ones for weekly sessions at Dr. Marshall's office. They're forgeries. The real Dr. Marshall retired 3 years ago. Dad stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. 3 years? We've been paying $500 a week for 3 years for therapy you never attended. $78,000, Virginia confirmed, plus the retirement fund, plus the credit cards opened in your name. Credit cards? Mom's voice was barely audible. More documents appeared on screen. Credit card statements, loan applications, payment records, all bearing Dad's forged signature. Total unauthorized debt. Virginia paused for effect. Just over $200,000. The room erupted. Mom slumped in her chair. Dad's face went from red to purple, and Darren stormed out again, this time slamming the door behind him. I can explain, Zariah began, but for once no one was listening to her performance. The police, Dad said quietly, his voice shaking. We need to call the police. Daddy, no! Zariah rushed forward, reaching for him, but he stepped back. Don't touch me, he said. Don't even look at me right now. Mom? Zariah turned desperately, but Mom was staring straight ahead, tears streaming down her face. All those times you needed emergency money, Mom whispered. All those investments you said would make us rich. All those stories about helping friends in need. I'm your daughter, Zariah pleaded. Yes, Mom finally met her eyes. And that's why this hurts so much more. Virginia already had her phone out, speaking quietly to someone on the other end. Zariah's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal, finally landing on me. This is your fault, she hissed. You've ruined everything. No, I said firmly, standing to face my sister one last time. You did that all on your own. I just finally stopped covering for you. The sound of sirens in the distance grew steadily louder. The police arrived with minimal drama. 2 officers quietly escorted Zariah out, while a detective took statements from my parents. Most guests had already left, leaving behind half-eaten meals and whispered promises to call later. Some wedding, huh? Frankie pulled me close as we watched Mom sobbing into Dad's shoulder. I don't think this is what they mean by memorable. I'm so sorry. I turned to face him. This wasn't how our day was supposed to go. Hey, he lifted my chin with his finger. Remember what you said in your vows about facing challenges together? Still, I sighed, most couples don't spend their wedding night giving statements to the police about financial fraud. Rachel appeared with 3 glasses of champagne. Well, most couples don't have Zariah for a sister. Here, you both look like you need this. As we sipped our champagne, Virginia approached with her tablet. The detective wants to know if you'll testify about the relationship sabotage. It establishes a pattern of manipulation that strengthens the fraud case. Of course, I started, but was interrupted by a commotion at the entrance. Is she still here? A man's voice called out. I need to speak to Zariah. Joey? Rachel squinted at the newcomer. Joey Stevenson? My heart dropped. Joey, Zariah's ex-fiancé from 2 years ago, the one who'd disappeared right before their wedding. He looked different now, thinner, more haunted, but definitely him. She's been arrested, Frankie told him. The police just took her. Arrested? Joey ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Good. That's good, because I have something you all need to see. He pulled out a laptop from his messenger bag, hands shaking as he opened it. I've spent the last 2 years tracking her activities. After what she did to me, I couldn't let it go. What did she do? I asked softly. Besides empty my bank accounts and try to frame me for embezzlement at work. He laughed bitterly. She nearly destroyed my life, but that's not even the worst part. Virginia pulled up a chair for him. Show us. Joey's fingers flew over the keyboard. See, after I lost everything, I started investigating. Found others she'd done this to. Created a whole network of her victims. And then I discovered this. He turned the screen toward us. Documents filled the display. Business records, bank statements, social media posts, carefully archived and annotated. She's been running this same con for years, he explained. Find someone successful, manipulate them into a relationship, gain access to their accounts, then destroy their reputation when she's done. But she got sloppy with me, left traces. How many others? Dad's voice made us all jump. He and Mom had approached quietly, their faces drawn with exhaustion. At least 12 that I've confirmed, Joey replied. Probably more. She had a system. Target people with money but few close connections. Love bomb them, isolate them, then strike. The relationship sabotage? That was just practice. A way to perfect her manipulation techniques. Mom sank into a chair. Our little girl, a con artist, a very good one, Joey nodded grimly. She learned early that crying got her out of trouble, that playing victim made people trust her. She weaponized sympathy. The therapy payments, Virginia realized, they weren't just theft, they were cover. Who would suspect someone supposedly getting mental health treatment? Exactly. Joey pulled up more files. And look at the timing of her emergencies. Always when someone was close to discovering the truth. Always with a ready explanation that made the questioner feel guilty for doubting her. I felt Frankie's arm tighten around me as realization dawned. The engagement announcement today wasn't just attention-seeking, Rachel finished. She needed a new mark. Darren has family money, doesn't he? Old money, I confirmed, and a trust fund he gets access to next month. Which she would have drained within weeks, Joey said, just like she did to me, just like she did to all the others. The detective approached our group. Mr. Stevenson, we'd like to take your statement now. This evidence could help build a stronger case. As Joey packed up his laptop, he turned to my parents. I'm sorry, I know this hurts, but she needs to be stopped before she ruins more lives. Dad nodded slowly, looking every bit his age. Thank you for coming forward. After Joey left with the detective, an uncomfortable silence fell over the room. The remaining guests had gathered their things, leaving just family and close friends. What happens now? Mom asked, her voice small. Now, I said, taking Frankie's hand, we clean up this mess. Together, as a family. And Zariah? Rachel asked. I looked at the empty doorway where my sister had been led away in handcuffs. She faces the consequences of her actions. Finally. Some wedding present. Frankie attempted a weak joke. Actually, I managed a small smile. It kind of is. The truth, that's the best gift we could have received today. The room fell quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. Like the calm after a storm, when the air is clear and you can finally see the damage and begin to rebuild. 3 days after my wedding, I found myself sitting in a sterile police station interview room, facing my sister across a metal table. She looked smaller somehow, without her designer clothes and perfect makeup. 5 minutes, the officer reminded us before stepping outside. You look terrible, Zariah said, picking at her orange jumpsuit. Shouldn't you be on your honeymoon? Frankie and I postponed it. Someone had to help Mom and Dad sort through the financial mess you left them with. She flinched. They're still mad. Mad? I leaned forward. Dad had to remortgage the house. Again. Mom can barely get out of bed. Is that what you wanted? I wanted... She trailed off, then straightened. You didn't have to expose everything at your wedding. You could have talked to me privately. Like you talked to me privately about sabotaging my relationships, or stealing Dad's retirement, or conning Joey out of his life savings. Joey, she spat the name. He's the one who turned me in, isn't he? Pathetic little man, couldn't handle a strong woman. Stop it, I cut her off. Just stop. The act doesn't work anymore. Joey showed us everything. The other victims are coming forward. It's over, Zariah. For a moment, her mask slipped. Real fear flashed across her face before she covered it with a sneer. So what now? You get to be the perfect daughter while I rot in jail. Is that your happy ending? This isn't about being perfect. It's about consequences. The DA says you're looking at 15 to 20 years. 20 years? Her voice cracked. But I'm your sister. Yes, you are. Which is why I'm here with an offer. She leaned forward eagerly. You'll help me? The DA is willing to consider a lighter sentence if you cooperate. Return the money, provide details about all your cons, testify against your accomplices. Accomplices? She sat back, eyes narrowing. I worked alone. Really? So that offshore account in the Caymans just appeared by magic. The fake IDs were self-generating. Come on, Zariah. We both know you had help. She stayed silent, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. Think about it, I continued. 7 to 10 years with good behavior versus 20. Your choice. And what do you get out of this? She demanded. The satisfaction of seeing me confess? What I get is closure. For our family, for Joey, for everyone you hurt. And maybe, just maybe, a sister who finally takes responsibility for her actions. You always were self-righteous, she sneered, but there was a tremor in her voice. No, I was just waiting for you to face reality. Remember when we were kids? Before the lying started? We used to be friends. Before you became Little Miss Perfect, you mean? Before you decided that taking what you wanted was easier than earning it, I corrected. Before you started seeing everyone as either a mark or a rival. She looked away, blinking rapidly. I can't go to prison for 20 years. Then tell the truth, all of it. Starting with who helped you set up those offshore accounts. The officer knocked on the door. Time's up. Zariah grabbed my arm as I stood. Wait, I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. The DA won't wait longer than that. Lorelei, her voice was small, almost childlike. Will you come back if I decide to talk? I studied her face, searching for signs of manipulation. For once, I saw none. Yes, but only if you're ready to tell the whole truth. As I turned to leave, she called out again. I'm sorry about your wedding. I know you probably don't believe me, but I am. I paused at the door. You're right. I don't believe you. Not yet. But maybe someday I will. Outside, Frankie was waiting with Rachel and Joey. How did it go? She'll talk, I said. She's scared enough now to tell the truth. The whole truth? Joey asked skeptically. We'll see. But for the first time in her life, she's facing real consequences. That's a start. Rachel hugged me tightly. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Dad's meeting with the bankruptcy lawyer. Please come home. Go, Frankie said, reading over my shoulder. I'll handle things here with Joey and the DA. I kissed him quickly. What did I do to deserve you? You spilled coffee on my laptop, he smiled. Best day of my life. As I drove home, I thought about Zariah sitting in that cold interview room, finally facing the wreckage of her choices. Part of me felt guilty for exposing her, for choosing truth over family loyalty. But then I remembered Dad's face when he learned about his retirement fund, Mom's tears as she discovered decades of lies, Joey's destroyed life, and all the others Zariah had hurt. Sometimes love means letting someone face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes it's the only way they can change. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more pain, more truth. But for now, I had a family to help rebuild. The courtroom fell silent as Zariah finished her testimony. She'd named names, provided account details, and exposed every aspect of her cons. For 3 hours, she'd laid bare a network of fraud that stretched across multiple states. And you understand, the judge leaned forward, that this testimony will be used in additional prosecutions. Yes, Your Honor. Zariah's voice was barely audible. Very well. Based on your cooperation and the DA's recommendation, I sentence you to 8 years in state prison with possibility of parole after 5 years. Additionally, you will pay full restitution to all victims. Mom squeezed my hand as Zariah was led away. She turned once, catching my eye, and gave a small nod. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us with questions. Dad stepped forward, his voice steady. Our daughter made terrible choices. She hurt people, including her family. Now she's taking responsibility for those actions. That's all we have to say. Back at the house, Virginia and Rachel had organized a small gathering. Not a celebration exactly, but a moment to breathe. Joey was there, looking more at peace than I'd seen him since the wedding. "The FBI caught Marcus this morning," he announced, showing us his phone. "He was trying to flee to Mexico with what was left of the money." "Marcus?" Mom looked confused. "Zariah's partner," I explained. "The one who helped her set up the fake accounts. Turns out he was running similar cons in 3 other states." "At least some good came from all this," Frankie said, wrapping an arm around me. "A lot of people will get justice now." Dad cleared his throat. "Speaking of justice," he pulled out an envelope. "This came today, from Zariah." Inside was a handwritten letter and a stack of documents. Mom's hand shook as she read aloud. "Dear Mom and Dad, I know sorry isn't enough, but I am sorry. Not just for the money, but for everything. I've signed over my condo and car to help with restitution. The bank accounts are next. It won't fix what I broke, but maybe it's a start. Love, Zariah." "She actually signed the transfer papers," Dad said quietly. "No games, no conditions." "It's something," I acknowledged. "A small step, but real." Rachel raised her glass. "To small steps, then, and to finally having the whole truth out in the open." "To truth," everyone echoed. As conversations flowed around me, I slipped outside to the back porch, the same porch where, as teenagers, Zariah and I used to share secrets and dreams. Before competition turned to sabotage, before attention-seeking became destruction. Frankie found me there, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "Penny for your thoughts?" "I was just thinking about choices." I took a cup. "How each little decision leads to bigger ones. Until suddenly you're so far down a path you can't see the way back." "But there's always a way back," he said. "Zariah found it today. Your parents are finding it, rebuilding their trust in each other. Even Joey's finding peace. And us?" I turned to face him. "Are we okay? This wasn't exactly the romantic wedding story most couples get to tell." He laughed. "Are you kidding? We got through family drama, financial fraud, and a criminal investigation in our first week of marriage. I'd say we're better than okay." From inside, we heard Mom laugh, a real laugh, the first in weeks. Through the window, I could see her showing Virginia old family photos, while Dad and Joey discussed plans for a support group for fraud victims. "You know what the strangest part is?" I said. "I actually feel lighter, like all those years of covering for Zariah, making excuses, pretending everything was fine. That was the real burden." "The truth usually is lighter," Frankie agreed, "even when it hurts at first." My phone buzzed, a text from the prison social worker. "Zariah would like to start family counseling when you're ready." I showed Frankie the message. "What do you think?" "I think," he said carefully, "that healing takes time, and work, and willingness to change. But if she's really ready..." "Then maybe we all are," I finished. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching the sun set on what felt like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Not a fairy tale ending, those don't exist in real life, but something better, a true ending, hard-won and honest. "Ready to go back in?" Frankie asked. I took his hand, feeling the new weight of my wedding ring. "Ready. Because that's what life is, really. Not perfect moments or dramatic revelations, but small choices. The choice to face truth, to allow consequences, to offer chances for redemption. The choice to love anyway, even when it's complicated, especially when it's complicated.